I start with economic justice, and that's equity and participation. Because if people who are contractors or have shops at the port, if they're treated fairly, they hire people. They can also expand their business. But if you are not with one of the major players, you might not be able to do that because they decide who goes where and when they go.
Well, we are I guess you say, the tip of the spear in terms of saying this is something that we need to do. There's a policy.
Welcome to Urban Forum Northwest with your host, Eddie Rye Jr. We're going to start off with my first guest is Seattle Port Commissioner Toshiko Hasegawa. My name is Eddie Rye Jr., founding member and a current board member of the Washington chapter of the National Association of Minority Contractors. And back in the day, we had Community Coalition for Contracts and Jobs that interacted with the port. And then I also supported efforts back in the 60s, late 60s and early 70s with Tyree Scott, members of the United Construction Workers Association.
Well, Eddie Rye is an important figure in the community. I met him in 2010 when I was director of the Office of Social Responsibility. My job was to try and figure out a way to promote dialogue, a way to promote conversation, and a way to inform him and other leaders that the port wants to listen. The port wants to understand where they're coming from. And for over 10 years, we've had an open channel of communications, and it's now a friendship.
Okay, thank you very much, Toshiko Hasegawa, private business owner and Vice President of the Seattle Port Commission. So, Toshiko, thank you.
My parents, they have instilled me from being in a community and also how policies can influence community direction and what the impacts to the community. My parents have been my foundation in terms of making sure that I do right by others.
Well, I was with Tyree Scott and Michael Ross, who was the state representative, and folks came out here and actually closed the airport down. I mean, they went on the runway. I wasn't going to do that. And I also worked with Tyree and a lot of other construction closures that happened to get blacks in the building trade unions. And in 1984, federal judge Lindbergh had a court order demanding that blacks be allowed to participate in building trade unions.
But there was a lot that happened in the 1960s and the 1970s where people wanted better conditions, better rights. Political activism is not something new to the airport. You think of Tyree Scott, who was a civil rights activist here, very well regarded. He was at the airport with other leaders wanting better conditions. And in part because SeaTac is such a hub, such an important place, and a way that different communities can come together. And that's, I think, one reason why people have been drawn to the airport to call for social change, is because so many communities and so many people work on different roles every day to make the airport work.
Eddie was able to come to the airport with other, and many years ago, with other supporters, and he was able to stop construction until the port would hear that there were not enough black workers or black contractors on the jobs. And guess what? They were right. The process was not a bad process, but it was not supportive of minority and women-owned businesses. And that began the process of us revisiting how we select contractors and subcontractors, how the goals are being added to the contracts. And that forced an internal conversation about where we were failing the minority and the women-owned businesses.
The Diversity in Contracting Department was officially established in 2018, and so a lot of our commissioners said, hey, we need to do better when it comes down to contracting, and we need to be even more focused as opposed to just general small business, but actually focusing on those diverse businesses out there that want to do work. And we're a huge economic engine, and so a policy was created and enacted in 2018 called the Diversity and Contracting Policy Directive, which laid the foundation of saying we are going to be even more deliberate and make affirmative efforts to actually truly get out to the communities of color, of identifying where those opportunities might lie for that business to compete for. When you're talking about economic development, you're talking about family values and so forth, it's about cash flow. How do you get money in your pocket to feed your family? And one of the areas that I saw that was a benefit, and especially when I was seeing some of the areas of workforce from the Urban League all the way down to contracting, at the end of the day, it's about how the dollars to feed your family and really making sure that your family grows and prospers for the future generations. And from working with small businesses and supporting them and moving them forward, I am contributing to their growth and development, and I like that. That is something that's near and dear to my heart.
It is a source of pride for me because I was part of the improvement of relations, dialogue, business opportunities, job creation, and also for the port. Now we can actually talk about the increase in businesses that we have with women, minority-owned businesses, and we can talk about it as a good thing because the numbers are improving.
You know, the growth of our small business program, even as a lot of the community members, they're now saying it's now less about there's no opportunities to now, okay, how do I do better in competing for those opportunities? You know, I think about the Eddie Ryes and the CRCs of the days, the Tyree Scotts, and they are the ones that we're standing on their shoulders to continue the movement and continue to move the needle forward when it comes down to economic prosperity for all of us.